Hey there, my name is Daryl, and this is my channel, Better Living Through 3D Printing, where it's my goal to improve daily life with the help of 3D printing. And today I'm very excited because I get to complete the project that I originally bought a 3D printer for 13 years ago, and that is to build a handheld gaming console. Now before I get to this, I want to go ahead and show you some of the history on why it took me 13 years to do so. This here is the original project that I wanted to build when I bought my first 3D printer. This is the Ben Heck Raspberry Pi Handheld. This came out in 2013, and I bought my first 3D printer in order to build this. Here's a picture of the printer that I bought. This is a Prusa i2. As you can see, a lot of this is threaded rod and a lot of really hacked together pieces. This thing did not print very well. It took a lot of tuning, and this is exactly why it took 13 years to get to this point. And here's another shot of just the back of the printer. The power supply was a separate unit. We used to use, computer power supplies. And there's a Raspberry Pi back there. Now, before I show you what I've built, I want to go ahead and show you what makes it all possible, and that is the Framework Laptop 13. This is a laptop that's designed by the Framework Computer Company. This is a fully modular, fully customizable, fully user repairable laptop. I mean, every piece of this thing, from the bezels to the motherboard to even parts of the chassis, are replaceable by the end user. And all the parts available on their website, as well as they provide very, very good guides on how to do so. This is super customizable. As you can see, I've got the orange bezel on this one. It additionally has what they call the expansion ports, where you can customize the system ports here. These come out of the system. As you can see, there's a button right there, and I've already got one kind of loose, but you can pull these out and you can change out your ports to either, like USB ports or whatever they make available. As you can see on this one, I've got a USB-C. Over here, I've got an HDMI. Let me take that one out, as well as another USB-A. And what makes the handheld that I'm going to show you right now possible are parts from this laptop. As I mentioned, everything can be used replaced. If you've updated this laptop, you may end up with quite a few spare parts, motherboards, batteries, Wi-Fi adapters, anything that you replace, really. And what I've done is I have built a case for all that stuff into this handheld console. And this thing has everything that's in this laptop. It's got a laptop motherboard, it's got the battery, it's got the Wi-Fi, it's got the speakers from Framework in the front here. It even has the modularity that the laptop has. I've designed this to be able to use these expansion cards, and I think this is the only one that lets you use these expansion cards. And they just snap in there just like you would on the laptop. And as you can see, we now have different expansion on the laptop. So let me show you a little bit more about this. It's got an 8.9-inch IPS touchscreen. It's got individual power buttons for both for both the system and the monitor. It's got volume control here. It also has front-facing speakers. And on the bottom, it has a docking connector, as well as threaded inserts for future expansion. And on the top, it also has threaded inserts for future expansion, as well as a slot that you can feed through if you were to build another module based off of the webcam from the laptop. On the back, it also has your exhaust, as you can see, the exhaust here, and I think something that not many other Framework laptop handhelds have, it has a kickstand. Additionally, let me go ahead and put this back. Additionally, you may be asking, how would I control games on this thing? Well, you might have noticed on the side I have Joy-Con rails. And this was why I also wanted to do this, was to also make it more modular. You can use Nintendo Switch controllers on this device. And that's it. That is the Framework handheld that I am calling the D-pad. If you'd like to build one for yourself, the instructions are coming next. Before we get started, I wanted to show you some of the tools that you'll need. First, you're going to need a screwdriver of some type. Here you can see I have 3 different types, all of which will work. I have an iFixit toolkit screwdriver. I have a screwdriver that comes with the Joy-Con kit, as well as the Framework screwdriver. All you need is a Phillips head as well as a Torx bit. The Torx bit is only going to be needed if you use the Torx screw for your Wi-Fi card. If you use a Phillips screw for that, you just use the regular Phillips screwdriver. Next, you're going to need a 2mm hex wrench. This is going to be used for the screws when you close the system up. In addition, you're going to need a soldering iron with a heat set insert tip, as well as a soldering iron with a regular soldering tip if you plan to do the optional features. These can be one and the same. I just happen to have one for each. And then finally, you're going to need a couple of types of tape. This is going to be the double-sided tape that you're going to use to attach some of the electronic components inside, as well as some Kapton tape just to hold a couple of items down if needed. Now let me go ahead and get this cleared off and we'll get the plastic set up for preparation. Alright, so here we are. I've got the camera pushed over to the bench. I want to talk about the plastic pieces that you're going to need for this project. So you can see I've got them laid out here, and we're just going to run through them all, and I'm going to tell you what's going to be necessary to get them prepped and ready for the build. The first thing we're going to do is start with the casing front. This is the most important piece. Everything is going to basically be built into this. Depending on the options that you want to install, you're going to install heat set inserts in various locations. There are 6 that are required. You're going to place the larger of the heat set inserts into these holes right here, all 6 along the edge. And then depending on the options that you want, you're going to install the smaller ones in different locations. I will count these as required. These are for mounting the Joy-Con rails on either side. And then you have got 2 right here on either side for the buttons that you can choose to install. That's the casing front. Hey, future Daryl here. I just wanted to interrupt for a second to show you that I have updated a couple of parts. Here I have the casing front and the casing back, and the only thing that I have updated on both of these parts is that I have added slots in these locations. These slots are designed to accept M5 washers, which you will put in like so. You will then continue on with the build just as in the rest of the video, and when it comes time to place the casing back onto the system, it will slot in just like that. And what this will do is to help prevent the casing front and the casing back from becoming misaligned or flexing out of alignment. Now back to your regularly scheduled video. And luckily I've got one already set up. I don't have to show you that. Let me swap that out. And I'm going to be showing you pretty much all the options here. So as you can see, I've got all 6 of them there. I've got the 2 here. I've got those on the sides. Now I do want to say, if you choose to install the Joy-Con charging option that I've set up, you're going to place one here, and this is for the board that mounts the Joy-Con is going to connect to. And then what you're going to do on this side is you're not going to install this one from the outside. You're just going to mount it from the inside. We'll get to that. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the back here. This is the casing back. There is only one heat set insert that you need to install here. This is for the kickstand. Something about this also, this prints with sacrificial bridging in these holes here. Being as though they are in midair and they're unsupported, they have to be bridged. You have to cut the bridging out. There's no way around it, but I've got one of these set up already also. Here we go. Okay, next one. This is going to be one of the battery/Mobo mounts. This is the left one, I believe. And then this one requires a little bit of work. This part is what I'm calling the Wi-Fi mount. You may have noticed there's a little bit of I don't know, glue residue there because I've already had this assembled. I took it apart to show you. But the battery, not the battery, the Wi-Fi mount will actually slot into here like so, and you're going to glue it. Unfortunately, the way this prints, there was no real other way to do it. Glue is necessary here. It's going to be, I just use super glue. Super glue works really, really good. And there's a spot for a heat set insert here also. And that's going to be one of the small ones. I would advise doing this first before gluing it in, because it's really easy to kind of get this off kilter and you can kind of blow out the end of it. Heat set first, glue it, and then you're ready to go. And I have one set up already. And actually, I'm going to trade that out also. Just newer parts printed, that's all. That's that. And then this is what I'm calling the screen clamp / mid plate. This comes with a lot of sacrificial bridging. These holes here are elevated. Those are going to require that you clean those out. You also see mouse ears here, and that is because you've got this long strip and then this bridge here, and these tend to curl. Well, for all these parts, you're going to want to make sure your bed adhesion is really good. I use a cryo grip sheet, and these are all printed out of ABS. These parts are designed for ABS / ASA. The shrinkage factor is already, taken into account. If you print it in some other material, I can't say how they're going to fit. I can't say how the thermal load or reactivity of these parts is going to be affected by the equipment inside. Either way, back to this, you're going to cut these mouse ears off, and then there's also kind of a bridge here. You're going to cut it off, and then there's sacrificial bridging in here, and well, this one doesn't have it because it's an older part, but there will be one here, and you'll see a little bit more on the part that I'm going to put down in a second. Again, I've gotten this done. Here's that. That's it for that plastic piece. And then you've got various other pieces here. You've got the kickstand. I decided to put the logo on the kickstand. I'm actually really, really proud of this because it uses the plastic as a spring to keep it in place. You can see these little holes here. These actually engage with, these little prongs engage with the holes. This is basically to clamp it in place once you get it all affixed here. This is the clamp. These are the buttons for the front. Depending on the options you choose, you can have a power button for the actual system. You can have one for the display, then volume buttons here. You can print, depending again on how many you want to do, print one, print none, print all four. It's up to you. I'm not going to count those as required to get this thing to work because they're not. And then the power button. This again, there is some sacrificial bridging. As you can see, there's kind of an outer area here as well as some bridging. And I did this because this little square here is elevated. And this is actually what contacts the power button on the motherboard. And there are components all around it. So I didn't want this button to interfere with any of that stuff. Print this out, you're going to end up cutting off all this bridging here, and you will end up with one like this. Just a little button. Not bad. That's it for that. Not much to it. I will show you how to put the kickstand on. What you'll need are the M3x10 screws. There are 3 of them. And then you'll need the kickstand, and you will need the clamp. So you are going to put it on, engage it, flip it over, and you are going to take, let me see if I can get that a little closer. You're going to take the M3x10, you're going to put it through on the inside, like so, on both of them. You'll take the clamp, put it right over, and then put the screw right through there, the remaining M3x10. Okay, that's it for that. As you can see, it doesn't move. Squeeze it, it'll come undone. That's it for that. This is already prepared. I think we're prepared with the plastics. I'm going to move this stuff out of the way for now. Actually, one thing real quick. The power button. The power button will go right here on the back. It's keyed. You can only put it in one way. And then what you will need is a piece of tape. I've just got some blue tape here. Okay. Grab a little piece. I wish I had figured out a way to keep this captive. During the assembly, you just have to kind of hold it there and then tape it so it doesn't come out. Just like that. Good and solid. We're going to move that. Let's get all this stuff kind of out of the way here, because I want to talk about the electronics. You're going to need some framework parts. You've got your framework motherboard. You've got your framework battery. Either of the framework 13 batteries will work in this. I mean, the 55 watt hours or the 61. And then any of the motherboards as well. I've tested this from an 11th gen all the way to this AMD board. You're going to have it prepared, of course, with your SSD and your memory. Okay. In either case, so the motherboard, and then the screen. The screen is a thing you're going to order off of AliExpress. It is actually, I think it's a really good screen. This here is a 8.9-inch touchscreen. This is the screen. It comes with the driver board, with this little control board, as well as this cable here. This is for connecting it all together, and this is for the touchscreen. You do not need this board. We're just going to take it away. And if you choose to do the power button for the display, and the reason for that is if you've got this all set up, while you've got the device powered off, but the charger is plugged in, the motherboard still powers the USB port that powers the screen. It stays on. If you don't want this thing constantly flashing, no signal, you probably want to do the power button for this thing. And that does require a little modification to this board. I will include pictures of that in the wiring diagram. There's that. And then the cables that make it all work. You're going to need some method to connect, USB from the motherboard to the driver board for that. We need, I found these flat USB-C cables off of AliExpress. These are for, I believe they're intended to go in, embedded devices and what is it? FPV drones. These are easy to get wrong. You can get a model of these that doesn't have the identifier chip in it, that they don't actually work for video. As you most likely can see here, this one says UT6A on the end here. The A means it has the chip. You're looking for the versions that have the A on it. And then this is UT6B, I believe. You can see the chip right there, though, too. You definitely need that. And when you're plugging this in, the end with the chip goes into the motherboard. I originally had it the other way around, and I would not get consistent video. You need that on that end. There's that. And then you need a way to charge it. As you may have noticed, on the back, let's go back to the back casing here. This has the openings for an expansion ports. I believe this is the only framework handheld that has these. In addition, well, it's not on the back, but I have a docking connector there too. When you put these together, you've got your options here to use the expansion cards. and you can do whatever you want. I mean, I have a USB-A one right now, but if you want to charge it via one of these, you know, USB-C, right? And then the framework charger. And also, if you choose to, there's a port down there for what I'm calling the docking connector. You could charge it through that, and I have thoughts for a dock. Designs in mind for a dock. It may never come to fruition, but the option is there if someone wants to do it. You also see these holes here on the edges. Those are for options that I also had in mind. You will also see this hole here. This should line up perfectly with the framework webcam module. If someone were to build an attachment to go on the top here, the cable would go right through there and it would be exactly where it needs to be to line up perfectly here. And then you've got your holes here that you put heat set inserts in for mounting on top and bottom if you choose. Let's go back. You have the option for the docking connector, and you get this cable. As you can see, these are kind of accordioned. This one, I believe, what does it say on here? This one's a UT8T on this end, and then this is still the 6A on this end. We'll get to all this cabling, but if you choose to do the docking connector, this one is needed. You have to choose whether or not you want to do the expansion card or the docking connector, or you could do it all. I'm going to show you both. We've got the cables for all that. Okay. Well, why don't we move some stuff, and I will get started showing you kind of how it goes together. Let me do some further arranging, and I will come back. All right, here we are. I almost forgot. Before we continue with the build, I want to make sure that we have all the electronic components covered, and I forgot a couple of things. Very important thing. You will need your Wi-Fi adapter. This is what gives you Wi-Fi and Bluetooth for the controllers to work. And then you will need the antennas that I've put in the spec sheet. These are designed to fit in these spots here. So you got to get these specific ones or something close to them. But so you got your Wi-Fi antennas and your Wi-Fi adapter card. You will need a controller of some type. Again, these are what I chose to use. I believe these are the Hyperion Pro 2. I chose these because they are Hall effect. They are switch controllers and they physically will dock to the system using the Joy-Con rails. And we'll get to that once we start assembling it. There's that, and then you need a set of framework speakers. So these I happen to have after, upgrading a laptop. So I have these. Then I've also built an extension for this, and I'm probably going to end up cleaning this up with some heat shrink or something like that. You don't need to actually build an extension. You can just really splice longer wires on. But they need to stretch from here to over this side because the motherboard is flipped. You could probably, well, it's not designed to do it. So I was going to say you could probably put the speakers in opposite locations and not have to deal with that, but this would still be short. So yeah, speakers. So that's it for the required stuff. Let me move this cable. And let's move a couple of things just around, just so we can kind of get a little space. I'm going to show you kind of the options, I guess, if you want to call it that. Okay. The options I had stated previously to do volume up and down buttons. They would be here. And to facilitate that, I have designed a board. Just a little circuit board here. It's got a couple of tact switches on it. It's got some pads on it, and this will all be in the wiring diagram. So there are going to be 4 pads on here. So you've got one signal per button, and then you're going to have 2 grounds. And the reason I did that is because the power button. I didn't want to risk any kind of, ground loops or anything like that. So I got individual wires going for the power button for the system, signal and ground, as well as for the screen. So this one will have 4 wires coming out of it. This one will have 3 if it's the volume button, volume control. And there will be a pad that you'll have to bridge if you want to just use that 3rd wire, or you can connect 4 wires to it if you want. I try to save on the wires, so I have 3 here. And then this here is the Joy-Con charging board. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer. So it has the Joy-Con connector on it, and all it does is provide 5 volts. I need to say this because I'm sure it's going to be a question that's going to come up. This does not do USB. This is power only. As far as I'm aware, there are not USB drivers for the Joy-Cons for Windows or Linux or whatever. So I did not build this board to make a USB connection. It will only charge them when you've got the system powered on. That is an option. You don't have to do that. Well, let's get one that has the cable. This is how you'll get the Joy-Con rails, from AliExpress. That ribbon cable will connect to this board. If you don't want to do the charging, just don't do this stuff. You can push this little pin here, take that whole thing off. Take that whole thing off, and you'll have just the rail, and you can just mount the rail. I worked with it this way for at least 2 years. If I hadn't mentioned it already, this thing has been in process for at least 3 years. I've been refining this, I've been updating it, I've been doing all kinds of stuff to it in that time. Okay, here's kind of what goes on this side here. And this is a Raspberry Pi Pico RP2040-1 is a particular model I chose. I chose this because it had the USB connections already broken out. As far as we're only using USB 2.0, we don't need like a USB-C port. I didn't want to deal with a connector and then having to do any of that. I just put solder on the pads for USB and soldered the wire to it. As you can see, this end isn't terminated to anything yet. When we get to that, I will probably do that off camera and then show you the work afterwards. To use any of this, any part of it, if you don't want to do the power button but want to do the charging, you will need the input shim for the framework motherboard. The framework motherboard, when in a system, your input panel as far as the keyboard, mouse, or keyboard trackpad, power button, connect to this connector. And this is a board not designed by me, although I probably will be providing updates to this board for this purpose. But this thing plugs into that. And it provides a USB connection as well as spots for the power button, as well as the 5 volts that are going to be used for Joy-Con charging. So I'm going to leave that there. Okay, that's half of it. The other half is pretty much the same. I mean, it's the button board. This one's got the 4 connectors coming out of it, 2 of which are going to go to, the screen for turning the screen on and off. And then the rest of them are going to go back to that input shim. 2 of them are going to be, 5 volts for the Joy-Con charger. The other 2 are going to be the power button for the system. Again, choose to install those or not. I think it's a pretty cool quality of life things. I don't know about you, but reaching around to the back of the system to turn it on is fine, but having a power button right there, or right here, just a good quality of life thing. Same thing for volume control. I hate having to quit like a game to go out to Windows to turn the volume up, and on this device, no keyboard, no mouse, except for, touchscreen. Not the easiest thing to do. So I prefer physical buttons, so that's what, that's what the RP2040 do. So I've got that wired up, so we'll show where that goes. Yeah, but that's it. why don't we go ahead and kind of put this thing together. Let's move this. First things first, you take the screen, right? You'll see this has kind of a curve in it because of the way I've had to design it because of all this stuff here. That's why the bridge on the middle plate is there, but you're just going to connect this in here according to, the documentation on AliExpress. So that's like that. You know what? I haven't even done this yet, so I am going to pull the plastic off of it. Works fine with plastic on if you want to leave it on there and just put it into the system. And you'll notice on the plastic here, well, maybe you can see it on the screen. The bezel on the bottom is, I believe it's thicker. So I had to make it so that you had to put this in at an angle like this and then put it like that. Not massive. I mean, you got to remember it though. Put it in at an angle, drop it in. You got to drop it into the actual recess for it. That's that for the screen. Easy, right? Next, mid plate, or screen clamp. You will feed this through this hole, this through this hole, like so. Okay, like so, and it just sits there. And the way this is designed, you'll probably see it. Minimal screws. No screws really to assemble, aside from closing it. You got the one screw for the Wi-Fi module. Everything else kind of clamps each other in place. One thing that I will say though is you probably will not, well, depends on how you feel about double-sided tape. Because you need some. You need some for this here. And I will show you why. Let me get my scissors real quick. Okay. I've designed this in a way, sorry, hold off on this. Put your speakers in. These, again, they're going to go this way. As you flip it over, this is going to be the right side, this is going to be the left side. The speaker actually says L on it. It fits right there. It just sits there. The right side goes right there, like so. And then you can choose to kind of arrange this, but these cables I choose to put inside here. And I will use some Kapton tape later on to kind of keep them in place. Probably in this area here. Maybe just keep this down. That's that. If you are choosing to do the dock, you will also put that in now. It actually is going to go kind of, well, probably should have gone in first, but under those into this here. You'll see this just slides in like that. Like so. Okay. And then it comes out over there. And I will say, if you're building this thing, you may choose to go ahead and temporarily install these things. Actually, I will show you kind of how they go. They will go like this. And one of the cool things that I think I've designed about this is these go on to the motherboard and no screws. These are going to go like so. You have, oh, I don't have it lined up quite right, but you have that. You'll see where the wire needs to go. Just like that. Same thing for this side. Once you get the driver board, the video driver board installed, the USB cable is going to come out here. And I will say my cables are quite a bit longer than they need to be. I'm going to recommend, if you do the docking one, keep it the same size, same length. The other ones, they can be quite a bit shorter. You could half it, or probably even go for the minimum. But what I would almost advise is screwing these in. You can use the screws that you're going to use to close it, just to hold them in, just like that, while you finagle the cables around. So I've already done it. You've got, I've got my bends here. Everything roughly goes there. But you can see that that's indented there. The intention here was to keep it as thin as possible. This is going to sit on top of it. And you can see I've got little markings on the board for how to align it. It's going to be kind of like that. And it's going to get double-sided tape underneath right here and right here. The reason I did that is because I tried to put this on top of the board and it was bowing the battery, and I didn't want to make it any thicker. This is pretty straightforward. Easy. We're just going to put a couple of pieces right here. And if you ever need to undo this, actually I might just put them on. Yeah. If you ever need to undo this, you could use a piece of floss, just get it underneath and cut through this tape, and it does come off. I have done it multiple times, but this is just your regular double-sided tape. I mean, it's the foamy stuff. It's a little bit thicker, and I chose it because it's thicker, because this is recessed here. Let me move these. So we're going to do a piece like that. You can just do it on either side of this here. Move that out of the way. Just like that. Okay. Okay, we are going to peel. Thank you. Peel this. Okay. And then just line it up. I got my little corner marks there. I'm going to move that speaker wire just for a sec. That's it. There, see? Nice and firm. I didn't really line it up all that great, but that's pretty close. Okay, as you can see, the docking connector is pretty snug there, right? It goes right there, just like that. Okay. We'll set that aside for a sec. We're going to do the optional stuff here and just skip all this stuff if you don't want any of it. Actually, I do need to back that out a little bit. If you're going to install the optional stuff, just get the stuff out of the way, right? Speakers out of the way. This will come out now. Since you have not connected it to the LCD, you can just set that aside, right? I'm going to set that aside. Okay. If you're going to install any of it, these are just going to snap right in here, and then you're going to use a screw. And you're going to use just your regular Phillips screwdriver, which I have here. And these are the same screws that come with the Joy-Con rails. When you order Joy-Con rails, it will come with extras, and you should have enough to actually do this if you want to do this. Let me get the power buttons too, because I printed out. Let's see here. Or sorry, the power buttons and the volume buttons and everything. I printed out 6. You don't need to. I just printed out extras in case, lose it or whatever. Okay. Straightforward, right? These little guys will fit into the recesses there. Not hard. I've tested all this out. What I will say is you probably want to prop it up. And then you've got, what side is this? This is the one with 4. That's not it, because it also doesn't have the RP2040. This is the one that goes to the side. And you go down like that. When you solder these on, make sure the wires are coming down. You don't want them coming out to the side because you will run immediately into this thing. I've got mine set up this way, so these just go in there. There's a recess in the edge there where they'll go. You should get it to line up pretty well. And then they just go like that. That's why you're putting the heat set insert in there. Like that. And then these will kind of go like this once you've got it. I'm going to kind of lay it like that. Or leave it like that. And then same thing for the other side here. This is going to be like this. Oh, I need to put the buttons on though. I have something else to elevate it. I'm going to use this Joy-Con rail just because I'm going to use the ones with cables on it. You'll see, you'll see, you'll see. Okay, so the button's there. So the power button board is going to go there. And I am recommending silicone cabling. You can get this 6-conductor cabling, a whole spool for it for pretty cheap. Okay. Let's take a look at the front. There you go. Nice amount of travel. Not really any, not anything crazy. Okay. You know what we're going to do? We are going to take the screen out for now. I don't want to damage it. Maybe I would recommend doing that first if you're going to not install all the extra stuff. Here, I will take that out. Okay. I'm going to install the extra stuff and the Joy-Con rails. Depending on how you do it, the Joy-Con rails, again, if you're using the charging circuit that I've built, you don't need the cabling. The way that I would like to do this, let me grab this guy. This will essentially go here. And then it's going to go down like this eventually. What I'm going to do is mount that Joy-Con rail aside here. Let's get some screws. This one, on this side, you could put all 5. You don't need them all. I think it's pretty solid without all 5. You could probably do just 3. Okay, so there's that. That's one Joy-Con rail, and you will connect this little guy to it. It is, oh boy, they're small. And the contacts go down in the connector. I found that out early on. Is that on straight? I don't know if that's on all the way. I found that out early on when I tried to do this and nothing charged. There we go. I think that's good. Yeah. Okay. And then this is where it gets a little finicky. You're going to do the same. That's why you put this heat set insert in from the inside. It's going to go right there. And that's where it's going to live. Just like that. And it doesn't have to be like parallel. You can give it a little bit of a tilt if you want a little extra cable. Yeah, something like that. I mean, it doesn't matter. Okay. But either way, that looks good. You can see where this is kind of going. You're going to do the same thing on the other side. Same deal, right? On this side, just put the Joy-Con on. You do all of them except for that 4th one, because the 4th one is put in from the inside for the board. Okay. That is kind of the mounting of all the optional stuff. If we can get it out of the way, we can get back to where we were as far as like the screen. But the button presses are nice. We'll have Joy-Con charging. Like all the features that are going to make this something that I would want to use are there. Let's get the screen back. Okay, screen goes back in. Same way as before. Don't pinch it, obviously. Okay, screen's there. Let's get the board back. The controller board. Let's get that back in there. Like so. Okay, that's looking really good. I like the way that's going together. So we've got that. Speakers are going to go back in. You can see these kind of go like right there. You see there's all these kind of lowered spots. It's going to go like right there. On both sides. But so far, right? Not too bad. No screws. Just kind of complicated to get set up in the first place, but I think once you've got it together, it'll be good. Another piece of double-sided tape. It's going to have to be small, and it's going to go roughly here. Let's do something like that. And then these are going to go down like this. I'm going to go ahead and just put those in like so for now. Okay, before we continue, I think I'm going to show you kind of what I'll call the magic on how this thing goes together. Battery motherboard mounts. One goes on the left side, one goes on the right side. Here you go. This is what you got. Battery goes there, right? Fits into that. Motherboard goes there. Right? Okay, set it on the end, like so. Try to keep them roughly 2 mil apart, and then just put the other side on, just like that. There you go. Okay, this is your stack for your battery and the motherboard. This is kind of like the magic on how this all goes together. We can see the ribbon cable is connected there. I've got the speaker wires routed. Let's see where they need to be. I usually put them under that ribbon cable, under this guy here, and do like a little, just a little Kapton tape to hold them down. Nothing too crazy. They're going to be sandwiched in that way anyway. They're not going to be squished, but they'll be in there. That is that. And I've also gotten a couple of pieces of double-sided tape on the back of the RP2040, so it's going to go here. I like to position it kind of after we get the motherboard placed. As you can see, the cabling for this guy is going to come through here. Cabling for this guy is pretty similar place. I'm going to kind of do a little bit of shuffling with that as far as, because I'm going to have it, I'm going to kind of have it like that, just so I can get the kind of the motherboard in, get those in place, and then I can, affix stuff in its proper location. We just take the whole sandwich, and it's going to go, oh wait, we almost forgot. We need the video cable for the monitor. Let's see here. Make sure the A1 comes from the display. This is the whole reason this thing is placed here. I wish this cable was longer. I probably could have ordered a longer one, but I did not, because it would throw all this off too. This thing plugs in. If it was straight, it would hit the speaker, like the actual USB port plug would hit the speaker. I had to tilt it a little bit. You may have to kind of lift it up just to get it in. Oh, another thing I should note too. These cables come with the heat shrink on the cable. They come down pretty far. On some of them, you have to cut it off completely. Like this one that goes to the display, you have to cut it off completely. This one, it's cut to the edge of the board. It just gives you more flexibility there. They are extremely fragile though. I would recommend ordering multiples. Use the first one as kind of your test to get everything folded, I guess, or set up right, and then fold another one using that as a template. Just there's a good chance that if you don't get it like perfectly right the first time, you break it, at the connector here, or too many bins in here, you break the conductors in there. I've had it happen. Just get extras. But I've already got mine folded. And this is crazy. I mean, again, if you get 1/2 the length, you can cut out this entire loop here. And in the future, that's what I'm going to do, but this is working for me now. I'm just going to go with it. But as you can see, it kind of comes out of the screen, kind of goes up along the edge there, kind of like that, right? And then it's going to go into the motherboard. You're going to get a similar thing kind of along this side, like it's just going to go straight into the motherboard, like that, if you're doing the docking connector. And then this one here is kind of what gives us the expansion port connection. We are going to do that. I'm going to kind of put it together, get this in place, and then I end up taking it apart. I'm going to do the soldering for the power button here off screen, do some other soldering as far as, I don't want you to really have to sit through that, but then I would come back and you would see it all done. Let's kind of get it in place. You'll see how this is going to go together. It goes like so. And just make sure you don't pinch stuff. And you'll notice I don't have the USBs, or sorry, the Wi-Fi stuff attached yet. You'll see why. There's you've got quite a bit of room down there to do stuff with the cables, like that, right? This eventually is going to make a turn. It's going to come down here. I'm going to not do that quite yet. Let me just kind of keep it out of the way, though, Just stay there for a minute. Stay there while I show you. This is going to live in this area here. That's it. You just double side tape. And again, this is anecdotal. This takes a lot for it to let go. I mean, in the years that I've been working with this thing, it's not come off. I really have to work to get it off. And then I clean it with, with rubbing alcohol or, IPA. So we just kind of do something like that. Just put that right there. There you go, fixed in place. There's that. That can kind of, stay out of the way, whatever. But then the cables go down that channel there. As you can see, the way I've got this set up with my extreme, amount of cables here is I've got this large loop here, and the video goes right there, like that. And then the docking connector goes there. This guy is going to go here. And you'll notice the weird bend in this thing, and there's a reason for that too. I am going to pull this up. I'm going to do the soldering for the power button for the speaker, or not the speaker, the display, and then route these to where they need to be, solder them to this guy. And again, that's all going to be in the wiring, drawing. If you choose to do any of it, you can do it. If not, you don't need it. All right, I'm back. I've got everything soldered where it needs to be. The input's in there. Everything should be all good, and we're ready to continue. This can be pretty straightforward at this point. It's mainly just cables and putting the back on. So my video cable here is already in place. Kind of put it where it needs to be. Should fit just right there. Okay, just like that, and this will be fine once I get it. Once I get the case on. And as you can see, I've got some bolts here just to kind of hold it in place for now. Those will go away when you go to put the back on. There's the video cable. All of our input stuff is there. This is the docking connector. This one, let me see here. I'm going to have to tweak this one a little bit, just to get it in like so. Okay, that one's good. Okay, let's go for the Wi-Fi. This, you can try to use one of the Joy-Con rail screws to put it in place. It's the same heated insert. If not, you can do one of the motherboard mount screws from the actual framework, and you can buy the screw kits from them if you wish. Let's take a look here. So this is going to go here, just like so, just like that. And it's not necessarily perfect as far as the way it lines up. It depends really on how well you glue that piece in. Not the happiest with it, but it does work. There are no problems to use your Torx. This is the only screw that you would need the Torx for. Oh, look, that actually lined up pretty good. Never mind. Okay, just do that. Get your little cables there. Put this all back where I had it. Just like so. All good. Okay, just make sure that everything's not going to like pinch. Like you can pull these through a little bit. Should be good there. Okay. And then let's take a look at the Wi-Fi here. I haven't really found the greatest way to do this. These just slide into this area here, and they're held in by the back, clamping down. It goes like that. The main thing you want is just to, make sure that the cables aren't pinched. I generally loop them around a few times and just kind of tuck it like under the main board. They'll do kind of like that, like it's fine. Just like that, like something like that. Same thing for this guy here, right? Do it maybe a couple of times. Just like so. Like there's nothing critical in this area. That's kind of just there. Just make sure that you kind of bend them over a little bit so they don't get in the way. Okay, that's that. The next thing is if you choose to do one of the input covers or the input modules, I'll show you on the back here. There's these indentations that are very specific as far as like the shape of them. You do have to remove the sheath off of the end that's got the female connector. The other end, you can cut it, at the edge of the board. Essentially, it's going to go like that. What you'll see here is, I believe it goes in like that, yeah. The cable actually goes into that recess. Here's the trick to it here. So you're essentially going to get this all bent up so that it will install kind of like that. I have kind of a lot of stuff in the way, like mine has to go in here. I've got accordion like thing going on here. It goes kind of underneath like that, and scoot it down enough. Just like, come on, go down a little bit. And don't forget your speakers too. We've got this guy plugged in. And then you can kind of plug this guy in. Just like that. Here's how you do the back. Okay, we're ready to actually put the back on. Let me take these bolts out. Oh, we got to do the speakers. Like I said, don't forget your speakers. Okay, speakers go there. Just like that. Yeah. Yeah, this twist here is what gives it to you, what gives you kind of the room to be able to make all this stuff fit. Okay. I think we're ready to close it up. Just make sure everything's kind of in the way, not in the way. This will fold a little bit. You'll be okay over here. This will all lay where it needs to lay. Don't forget your battery. Let's see. Okay, actually I should do the battery now. Just twist it over and plug it in. Get your lights, just like so. Let's get the back ready. Okay, let me take these out. These were just temporary screws. Okay, I need those. I will need these. So you notice M3 by 16, M3 by 20. Those go in specific places in the back. And I'll show you where. I think we are good. Yes, okay. Here's kind of the trick. Let me figure something else out here real quick, just to prop this up. There. Okay. This is the expansion connector or card. What you'll end up doing, again, you got your power button taped, right? And your power button's right there. It's very, very small. What you'll do is you'll feel it. Like you can put the cable in place, put this in to hold it in place, and then you will put this all together and try not to pinch anything. Let's go ahead and continue closing it up though. What I like to do is once I've got it together, I like to pinch one corner where the expansion cards go and do that corner first. Get it done and then do the opposite corner. Not the other expansion one, but one of the, like the other far corner, like that. I'm just going to, crisscross pattern. Don't think I missed anything, but that's the build complete. Let's test that out. Yeah! All right. Let's go ahead and let it boot up. You see the framework logo here? I'm going to go ahead and hold on to this just because I don't want to block the air vents on the back. Or though, I could probably, let me do this at an angle here. We'll do it at an angle. Okay, there we go. There's Windows. And it should load Steam in big picture mode. I think in the future I may go ahead and switch this over to Steam OS. Sound as though it's supported. Or not necessarily supported, but it will work. There's big picture mode. That's kind of loud. I'm going to go ahead and test those volume buttons in a second here, but let's see, it's going to log me in. Okay. Let me test, well, we know the speakers work. We know the power button works. Let's test the touchscreen. We know the screen works. Touchscreen, yes. Let's exit Steam. That seems pretty good. Let's turn the screen off. All right. Turn it back on, please. Okay, it's coming back on. Cool. All right, we're good there. We've got our volume controls here. Let's see. Yep, that is decreasing the volume. That is increasing the volume, decreasing the volume. That's working. Good. Okay. Let's see. I think the only other thing we've got to test here is the Joy-Con charging. I have got my Switch 2 here. Let me go ahead and just bring it over. Since the Joy-Con controllers don't communicate with the system, you don't get a charging indicator on the system. In order to test to note that your circuit is working, at least for the first time, I pair these to my Switch, and then when I dock them to the actual handheld, you'll see the charging indicator and you know it's working, and then you just pair these back to the console. That's what I've got set up. Let me go to controllers on my Switch here. Let's go change grip order. Well, let's turn them on because they're paired. Okay, there's one. There's the other. Okay, so you see they popped up there. Oh, you can see I'm controlling the switch right now. Let's go back to controllers. Okay, you can see the indicator down here for the controllers. These are the old switch controllers, because if I did, let me do this, you can tell. See, they're different, right? Okay. Let's set those aside for now. We've got the old Joy-Cons. I'm going to dock them into the thing, into the handheld, and we'll see if the charging indicator pops on here. Let's do this. Are you full? Oh wait, no, it did. Yeah, I was looking at the wrong one. Let's see here. And, oh, come on. Okay, they both have the charging icon. Yeah, nice. Okay, so let's do this. There you go. My switch controller's charging capability is working. All I'm gonna do now is, I guess I don't have to undock that. Let me unpair the things from my switch, and then we'll pair them back to the console. Make sure the firmware is up to date on these. They would not combine as one unit in Steam until I got them to show up as actual Joy-Cons. Previously, they showed up as just wireless controller. Okay. The reason I originally went with this idea was because you could have two separated controllers. I was thinking you could play this with a friend, Mario Kart or whatever, you know, and you have individual controllers, but then you could also combine them into one controller, and you could attach them to the device just like the Switch. Let's play a little bit. Those are set up. These go to sleep really quick. Pay attention to that, but like you saw earlier, it's going to log into Steam when you first launch Windows. I closed it just to do all this testing, so I'm going to launch it. I just have it on my desktop. I should turn on one click. There it is. Let's turn that down, huh? Oh, that's so nice. Okay. Here we are. So logging Steam. I have a few games installed. I have, let's see, I've got a lot of Metal Gear games. If you can't tell, I'm a Metal Gear fan. But the ones that I have installed are Death Stranding and Super Meat Boy. But let's check the settings here. If I go to the menu, go to settings. Oh, no, cancel. Settings. And go down to controller. You'll see the controller is Nintendo Joy-Con L and R. That's because I have the setting to combine them. There's a link down here for combined Joy-Con pairs. It's on currently. Depending on the game and how you want to play it, turn that on. But if I turn it off, there they are. You see Joy-Con left, Joy-Con right. You could do a two-player thing. For the game I'm going to do, combine Joy-Cons. Let's go back. Let's go to the library. Here's a library of installed games. Let's do Death Stranding. Actually, you know what? Let's go back. Let's go Super Meat Boy. I haven't played very much of this. Let's see here. And this should act just like a regular, you know, Xbox 360 controller. See, I really haven't played very far. As you can see, controllers are working. It looks like Blood Mountain. I don't remember. Okay, controls, there we go. Don't laugh at me. This is actually kind of hard to do with it pointing that way. There's one level. Oh, the glare. Oh, here we go. Like that. Let's do Death Stranding for a second. All right. So, continue. It runs at a pretty good frame rate. You have a truck over here. There we go. What? X is used vehicle. There we go. See, it matched up with the overlay. And I'm getting rumble out of these things too. This is actually very hard to see. I'm either having to do it through the streaming window or on the device itself. There we go. Quit game. Okay. All right. And then you've got your Steam stuff here, so I don't have to use touchscreen. I can actually do that. Can I start Metal Gear without updating it? All right. Well, I'll give it some time, and maybe I'll attach a little bit of gameplay to that too. There we go. Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater. I got it updated. Let's see if we can get a little gameplay going here. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, controller seems to be good. Probably in the beginning. It's dark. Seems to be running pretty well. Okay. Oh, this is where the bridge is. Okay. Yep, there's Rumble there. All right, well, there you go. Well, there you have it, the completed D-pad console. If you would like to build one for yourself, all the files are available on the GitHub. And if you would, please like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some games to play.